Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems that, especially people of our generation had in this concept of spirituality and religion being two separate entities is that, we really grew up sort of being told, especially if you went to a Catholic church, that any practice outside of Christianity, Catholicism specifically, but especially any practice that comes from a different part of the world or an entirely different religion, sphere of thought, is devil worshiping.
Yeah.
This was I remember I had a professor who said, and this was actually I thought this was a guy who really exhibited a deep sense of gnosis and spirituality from the Catholic faith, but he said that meditation, zazen specifically, was quieting yourself down so that the devil could enter you,
Mm,
and that the Dalai
wow.
Lama was a megalomaniac.
Yeah.
And that's such a just a misinterpretation. I think I think some of these guys actually, I think a lot of them come from a place of controlling and just wanting people to subscribe to one faith. But I think some of these guys are victims that they actually do have this deep sense of spirituality, but they got locked in the language. They were told their path was the only one. This interpretation is the only interpretation of God and spirituality. Um, and because when he talks about God, he would speak of God of just being this emanation of the universe, right? This thing that's ever changing, ever evolving, and like, wow, that's a deep spiritual insight, and that seems to fall in line with what I believe. But I'm not a Christian, If he understood, if he knew what I practice, and he would have kicked me out of his class. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Um, so I think that there's this trap of and this certainly happens in Buddhist schools of thought too, though, where they think their view is the only view as well. But it seems that people can fall into this trap where they have an experience, they become so open by it, but they also get skewed because they think that, like, oh, I prayed to Jesus, and so my devotion to Jesus is what allowed this practice to happen. Whereas um, yet that devotion to Jesus is a very strong way to experience this, but there are an infinite amount of ways to experience this. And that once we can understand that we're talking about the same thing, maybe we're just speaking in different languages. You know what I mean? Uh,
very much.
and language in the sense of an interpretation, right? And just a different interpretation of the same viewpoint. And I think getting that thought into the fundamentalists is a way that we can re-embrace true spirituality and sort of begin to strip away the dogmatic entities that inflict these major institutions.